Welcome to Buckets, coming to you from the Tommy John Home Studios. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by Brandon Anderson, NBA futures analyst. And this is your part three of our big previews of all the NBA playoff series, as well as best bets for the first round series. Today we'll be talking about the Houston Rockets in the 2 seed taking on the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, my oh my, and everybody just love them. And then we're going to talk about the Boston Celtics taking on the Orlando Magic in a 2-7 matchup that is going to tempt me like the sirens of old. And so I'm going to have to stay disciplined with how I approach betting that series. Everything we talk about can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. We're putting in all of our props this year. All of our futures are in there. So you can track those. You can find those. You can follow those. You can get the prices. You can see where we bet them. All that stuff is in the Action Network app. Just follow us in the app. Sign up for the pro subscription. You get instant alerts on Brandon's plays. You get instant alerts on Sean Kerner and Chris Raybon. All those guys that are so smart and so good at what they do. Sign up for the pro account there. Check out youtube.com/the Action Network. Friday night, after the 8 seeds are decided in the last play-in tournament games, Brandon and I are going live on YouTube, and we're going to break down the 1-8 series. Then on Sunday, we're going to do a weekend recap episode. It'll be the Future Jays. We'll have like 7 of the 8 games done. Brandon's not joining us so that he can stress over the last game of the weekend that he doesn't want to watch anyway. The Joe and Jim and I, though, will be breaking it down. It'll be live on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/the Action Network. Don't just subscribe. Turn on notifications. Give us the likes and spread the word about the good content that we're doing on Buckets. We're doing a whole lot for you this year. So I hope you guys pay it back with a like, a subscribe, all that stuff. Brandon Anderson, 3rd day in a row. I'm not tired of you yet.
Give it time.
Let's get into it. Let's start with the Western Conference because it's obviously the more interesting of the two. Golden State Warriors get the win over the Memphis Grizzlies last night in a game in which you thought Zach Edey played wonderfully and the rest of the universe thought that was stupid. Warriors get the win. They take on the Houston Rockets. Rockets open minus 200 on this series.
Warriors open minus 200.
Warriors open minus 200 in this series. Via Evan Abrams, just the second time in NBA history that a team, a 7 seed has opened as the favorite over a 2 seed. So that's exciting for them. Let's do your 10-word thesis. What's your 10-word thesis on betting Warriors Rockets?
Warriors can win this battle, but already lost the war. I'm going a little more futures focused here, talking series and long term on my Warriors.
Okay. Mine is going to be, at some point you have to fade the smoke and mirrors. That's going to be mine. I'm going to use DraftKings numbers. You can find different variations on this across the market, and I'm sure Brandon has all the numbers up to correct me if there's a better price. Warriors minus 200, Rockets 165 as we're recording this on Wednesday afternoon is the series price. On the series spread, you can get Rockets minus 1.5 at plus 340. Warriors plus 1.5. So to force game 7 or win the series is minus 450. Warriors plus 2.5 is minus 900. The shortest price on there is Warriors minus 1.5 games to win in 6 or fewer at minus 115. So clearly, Brandon, the market thinks that the Rockets are poo and the Golden State Warriors are pretty good. Tell me, I'm very interested in this. I'm going to kind of give you the floor here for your play about losing the war. Tell me about where you're going here with Warriors and Rockets.
I got to be honest. I was all set a week ago. I was all set Sunday morning to be in on the Warriors. Give me the Warriors. Give me some Warriors futures. Like this, Jimmy Butler is here. Everything is clicking. It's all looking good. And I just really feel like big picture, this last few days has really doomed a potential run for the Warriors. The mileage that they took out of those 2 grueling, tough games down to the wire that they could have easily coin flip lost either one of them. The injuries to potential like small, but nothing injuries to Jimmy Butler. Took the knee to the thigh on Sunday. Draymond Green hurt his neck. Steph Curry clearly has a thumb injury that's kind of coming to place, flexing. Small things, but we have a lot of years of data on the Warriors and on Jimmy Butler, frankly. And the attrition. always the attrition is the thing that comes back to bite this team. When they screw around early in series or in the playoffs and give games away, the attrition adds up. And now we have a Warriors team that I think is probably better than the Rockets, but not by as much as they think and not by as much as the books think. They probably should win the series, but it's going to be a grind, and it is going to be exhausting. And it is going to be physical. It's going to drag out. I think they can do the job, but between the injuries already, the attrition of those 2 games, not getting the week off, then what these 2 weeks will look like, I think they can still win a battle. They won a battle last night. Barely. They barely won a battle last night. They can barely win this battle. I don't think they will do it comfortably, but I think that the battle attritions are going to add up and cost them any real chance at a deep run at the war. So my best bet here is Warriors in 5 or Warriors in 6. I've done that one. I think that was my Pacers best bet as well. So effectively, I'm taking the Warriors -1.5 spread you offered. That was a -115. I'm getting a better price because I'm giving up the sweep. So I don't think I'm going to give Houston some credit to not get swept here. I said on a podcast with Jim a couple weeks ago, give me whoever's playing Houston in a sweep. I'm giving them a game. I'm giving them a chance to win at least one game, and I think probably more. I'm not taking the sweep. Warriors in 5 is +600 at ESPN. Warriors in 6 is +310 at MGM. I get +158 that way. So I'm getting like a 39% implied rather than the bet, the -1.5 spread is a -115. So like 52, 53%. So I'm giving up Warriors in 7. I don't think that's out of the realm here. I don't think that the Warriors can't go to Houston with their veterans and get the job done there. The longer the series goes, the less I like the Warriors because the attrition is building up. You got this young, hungry team. It feels very Warriors Kings from a couple of years ago. And I could see kind of dragging out similar. So I'm tentative here. And I did not think that I would be. But Warriors in 5 or 6, that's my bet. And I do actually, I think my favorite series here is player props on this one. I have a lot of angles for game to game and series leaders for player props when we get there here. But I'm Warriors in 5 or 6. Sounds to me like you're trying to go the other direction.
Yeah, I bet this immediately when it came out, and I'll go ahead and give it out again. Rockets +165 just to win the series. Just good old, simple, old-fashioned, I'll take the 2 seed with the better record and a better season-long overall performance. More consistent performance, I'll take the Rockets with home court +165. I ran power ratings on this, and I come out with Rockets +115. So +113. I do actually have the Rockets as dogs here, which isn't surprising. Like my numbers had the entire year have been like, yeah, no, like we get it. Like the Rockets are good, but like they're not this good. Like they're just not this good. Like all year long, that's kind of what they've said because their half-court offense is so terrible, and my numbers rely a lot on that. So I've only got them at like a 47% implied chance of winning the series outright. But like that to me sounds right. +165 does not. This Warriors team, I will maintain and keep saying this, that I do not believe in this Warriors team. Now, what I don't want to do is I don't want to get so caught up in that idea that I overcorrect, right? I'm not going to go in on like Rockets to win in 4 or 5 or even 6. This may take 7. I think that that's a reasonable kind of outcome in this situation. The most likely scenario that I do have by my numbers is Warriors in 6. Like that's the most likely outcome. But the percentages are so much closer. Like I have this as a very, very, very tight series. And the market is like Houston's a fraud and the Warriors are legit. And I'm kind of like, yeah, no, like I get it. Like Houston's probably not as good as the 2 seed, but like the Warriors are there are so many question marks. And I really like the matchup for Golden State. I know that the Warriors did well in the season series, and there's a lot of numbers that bend towards them in terms of the overall starter numbers. I get all those reasons too. But there's enough things here that I found that when I did the deep dive that I was like, no, I feel comfortable with a Rockets play. So I'm going to take the Rockets to win this series outright. It won't be one of my stronger ones, but I do think the Rockets are worth a... It's not that I think the Rockets are going to win a series. It's that I think the Rockets to win the series is good value at +165.
Yeah, and I think that that's the key. Like, if Warriors minus 200 means Warriors should win this series 2 out of 3 times, 67% of the time. I don't think that's a good bet. I do not think you should make that bet. Do I think the Warriors will win the series? Yes, I do. You think the Warriors will win the series also by your percentage, but that does not make it a good bet. That's the whole point of all the podcasts we're doing at Action Network, is telling you not just what's going to happen. Like, tell your buddy next door what's going to happen. Betting, you have to bet. You have to play the odds. You got to win the money with the right number. And I think if you were just betting a series price, I can't believe I'm saying it, I can't recommend betting the Warriors. If you're just betting a series price, the Rockets are the better price. If I was betting one of those, that would be the side I'd have to be on. I can't quite get there because I can't quite believe enough to get there, but I think it's the right numbers play.
Instead of talking, I want to come back to your futures point about the Warriors because I think that's interesting. Let's talk about what you do like about the Warriors. Like, what in this matchup makes you go in the Warriors' direction? If you know that the price isn't good for the Warriors to win it, what still makes you go that direction overall?
Yeah, so, I'll start with like the 4 factor stuff. So we'll get back to Houston, I guess, in a bit. But Warriors, there's not a lot of 4 factor stuff that I love here. The more I dug into things, the more I looked at data, the more I was like, man, very even matchup. Similar place to what I got to with like Knicks Pistons. And you're kind of reaching a similar conclusion I did there, which was like, I'm not saying the Pistons are going to win. I'm telling you the price is wrong on them here. Yeah. I think this is much closer. I think it's kind of going to be a war, like I think about that series also. Warriors want the threes. The Warriors finally are taking 1,000,000 threes. That's been the perception for a decade, but they're finally number 2 in three-point attempt rate, while the Rockets defense is number 2 fewest three-point attempt rate. Okay, so you don't get your threes up. Warriors are offensive rebounding. They're top 5 this year. Houston's been a great defensive rebounding team, so there's no advantage there. I do think Golden State will get free throws. One huge thing since Jimmy Butler got there is Golden State's basically gone from league average on free throws to near top of the league on free throws. Just like they've been terrible on free throws. They went from 28th to 2nd in free throw rate since Jimmy Butler showed up. And we saw that in the play-in yesterday. I know you have feelings about the foul calls as well, but it is what it is. They're getting to the line. Houston's got young, aggressive defenders. I do think we're going to get Warriors free throws. So that is an advantage, but there's not a lot there. There's not a big advantage for the Warriors. The offense has not really been that great, even with Jimmy. Where I eventually tilted toward the Warriors' direction, because we'll talk Houston as well. I can say a lot of the same thing about Houston. I don't think Houston has many advantages when they have the ball either. If I look at, okay, what's the version of these teams right now? Obviously, the Warriors changed completely when they got Jimmy Butler. How much changed? What changed? Houston also sort of had that version when they started starting Amen Thompson. Houston, when they did that and basically put Jabari Smith to the bench, Amen in the starting lineup, they turn it over a lot more now. They're now bottom 10 turnovers. They were top 5 fewest turnovers. That specifically is very troublesome to me for Houston in this matchup because the Warriors with Jimmy Butler have gone from 14th in turnovers forced to outlier number 1 in turnovers forced. They forced so many turnovers, and we saw it in that play-in game yesterday against the Grizzlies when they built the 20-point lead. Turnover. Like, Butler is gambling for steals. I think they have so many smart guys defending that they know they can kind of gamble a little bit, not pay for it, and the other guys will cover for it. And that leads to easy buckets, which you do not get against Houston otherwise. You're not going to get that in the half court otherwise. So I think turnovers are huge. Houston's defense has just slid a little bit. Şengün, I think, has been a little worse with Amen out there. So to me, the swing factor, just kind of summarize, Houston is having more turnovers now with Amen Thompson in the lineup. Makes sense, younger guy doing some new stuff. Warriors with Butler are forcing the best, most turnovers in the league, more even than Oklahoma City, who's been incredible at it all season. And they've gone from worst at free throws to basically best. Those two advantages, the free throws and the turnovers, I think are outliers big picture. I don't think you can just bet on the Warriors to keep doing those things forever. In this particular matchup, because of Houston's weaknesses in youth, I think they're the two things that nudge me enough to believe in the Warriors.
Okay, good stuff there. I have a lot of agreement with you because you did the big picture. What do these teams look like overall? And I dug into what happened when these two teams played each other this season to look at the matchup stuff, and it echoes a lot of what you said. To reiterate here, I think we're going to need to play Jimmy Butler over on points, and
Yeah,
one
I
of
think
the
so too.
reasons is the Warriors had the third highest foul rate, fouls drawn, of any Rockets opponent this season. Third highest. The interesting part is everything else does kind of bend towards Houston. So, for example, of all teams that played the Warriors, the Rockets allowed the 10th fewest points off of turnovers against the Warriors. They allowed the 6th fewest second chance points allowed versus the Warriors of any team facing Golden State. The 8th fewest fast break points. The 12th fewest points in the paint allowed. And when we get to the bigger stuff, like you're talking about with four factors, with effective field goal percentage being the best, the Warriors had their 6th lowest effective field goal percentage this season versus Houston. They couldn't shoot versus them. Yeah. Now, if you're like, but what did the Rockets shoot? We'll get there. It's what you think.
Not great.
It's what you think. I do think it's interesting, but the Rockets also had the 9th lowest turnover percentage. So, like, they didn't turn the ball over versus Golden State. They didn't let the Warriors shoot well. They didn't turn the ball over. They dominated the boards. But they got crushed at the line. They just got crushed at the line. Even the 3-point thing, which you mentioned, so I was really curious about that. Like, okay, the Warriors are a great defensive team. The Rockets can't shoot, and the Warriors shoot a ton of threes. What does that look like? It was 63-53. 10-point edge for Golden State across 5 games played. The Warriors only made 2 more threes a game. Now, that's a big difference. Like a +6 in a 3-point margin is a pretty considerable gap here.
Sure, but how many more did they have to shoot to get that gap, and then it might close back down again?
Right. And so, like, that is, like, kind of the thing here. So, like, they didn't really get crushed there, but this is, like, the big number. The Warriors had a 29% free throw rate versus the Rockets. The Rockets had an 18% free throw rate, an 11 percentage point gap in free throw rate. So, like, if this is a playoff whistle and they're like, no blood, no foul, I think Houston can win the series. Because I will say this, I think I said the other day that if you got in a lab and created somebody to defend Kawhi Leonard, you'd have Aaron Gordon. If you got in a lab and created a player to defend Stephen Curry, it's Amen Thompson.
Yeah, I think it might be.
He's absolutely incredible. His ability to chase, like, his location off of screens, the best thing I like about him from watching the clips I did last night is he does the thing that I wish everybody did, which is he face guards him, and then Steph, like, he's up into his space, not allowing him. He gets over the screen, doesn't deny it, so Steph passes the ball. Whenever Steph passes the ball, everybody else in the league goes, phew, did the job, as if they'd never seen film of him before. Amen increases how much space he's taken away. He immediately goes into ball denial mode. He's like, I don't care where you go or what screens you run off of. I will be there. I'll find you. That's what Amen Thompson is constantly doing. And that's really pivotal versus the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry, obviously. Another interesting element for Golden State, Draymond had a -6 net rating in this series.
Yeah, he's pretty bad in the season series. I saw that too.
Yeah, it's not a great matchup for him for a number of reasons, which is another reason I really like them. Like, I'm not an Alperen Şengün guy. I think this is a really good Şengün series. Like, I have a lot of questions about Alperen being able to handle, like, a number of tough matchups in the playoffs. This one, even though it should be so tough, I kind of like it. I actually kind of like it for him. I think he can actually do some damage here. So those are kind of like my big picture kind of views on it. Let me ask you this on Houston. Is there anything outside of they can't put the little orange object inside the circle with the net attached? Like, is there anything beyond that you really dislike about them offensively? Because it's like, I don't think that they run bad stuff. I don't think that they execute poorly. They just can't shoot at all.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, putting the little orange thing in the little mesh spot with the circle, like that's what you got to do. Like that's kind of everything. Like even on 4 factors, which is effective field goal percentage, turnovers, offensive rebounding rate, and free throw rate. That's the 4 factors. It's really like the 1 factor plus 3 other factors that we also met. Like it's EFG is like 60% of it or something like that. Like it's at least half. So Golden State usually, I'm going to give you this one. We talked about our Defensive Player of the Year thing. I know that you feel very strongly is not Draymond Green this year. Golden State's defensive profile does not reflect a Draymond Green awesome defensive profile. It doesn't at all. It's a pretty average shot profile defensively, even with Jimmy Butler. The Rockets are not good anyway. They're poor at threes. They're bad at getting to the line. It's not just against the Warriors. That's not a strength of theirs. They take a ton of twos, but they're bottom 5 in 2-point percentage, which normally would be death against the Warriors because normally the Warriors are elite at 2-point percentage. They're not this year. They're not as good at it, but they're probably still good enough against the Rockets. So I don't know. Like, is there something else I don't like about the fact that the Rockets can't score the ball? No, I don't like that the Rockets can't score the ball. I do like one thing for them. I told you Warriors free throws is their big advantage. The Rockets are the number 1 offensive rebounding team in the league. And you brought up Zach Edey at the top. I think getting those offensive rebounds, getting those tip outs, I thought really put a lot of stress on the Warriors defense. They started collapsing, trying to get the rebound, which got them out of position, which they're normally so good at. And now they're giving up cuts. Now they're giving up stuff at the rim. The Warriors are a top 10 defensive rebounding team by the numbers. I've not seen that when I watch them. That does not look like what I'm seeing from them. They are 3rd best in fewest second chance points, but the Rockets are number 1 in second chance points in the series. Again, if the Rockets can turn this into a brawl, and they're going to miss shots. They are going to miss shots, but if they can catch the rebound and get a closer shot or a second shot or a third or a fourth shot, if they could force some turnovers because Amen Thompson's on staff, because the Warriors are the Warriors and are going to make mistakes. They've turned over less this year, but we know what they do in high leverage spots. For all the good things, they turn the ball over. I think like no real shocking analysis here, but like turnovers to me, if you just told me who won the turnover margin each game, I would feel like I have a really good idea where this is going to go because neither team's offense is that great. Like we know the Rockets are not, but the Warriors are not that awesome either, especially if Steph gets a little bit contained. So if the turnovers come and you get the easy buckets, that might be enough to swing it for one game. But for Houston, if they get those offensive rebounds, maybe that swings it. You mentioned the season series, 48% EFG in the season series against Golden State across 5 games. So not great. They cleared 50 one time. And by the way, context in the season series, Steph Curry did not play the first 2 games. The Warriors won without Curry early in the year when the Rockets were like blazing hot. Butler only played the last 2 games. But the Rockets won the season series 3-2, and the Rockets won what I would say are the 2 games that matter in the season series. The one late down the stretch when Golden State's like trying to push to get in the playoffs, and Houston kind of clinched where their spot was, and they beat them in the in-season tournament by a point. So, again, there's a lot of bad stuff from the numbers there with Houston in the season matchup stuff. But yeah, I started with, here's my 4 factors. Okay, maybe the Warriors will get free throws. Oh, maybe Houston will get offensive rebounds. Then I looked at the season series and I was like, yep, offensive rebounds. Yep, there's the free throws. Like, all the stuff you thought is happening. It's just going to be a battle, game after game. And I think it's much closer than minus 200 on the series should imply.
Should we be thinking about over on games and not having to worry about whether
So I thought about it. Like, where I started with my bet was, okay, I think I'm Warriors. Am I Warriors? I think I'm Warriors. Nope. Best I can find is minus 175 in the series. I'm not Warriors that heavy. I don't need it. Okay. What about just over on games? Over 5.5 games. Minus 175. Again, the best I can get there. So I don't mind that, but I'm not convinced that it's a long series enough to need a minus 175 because could I see the Warriors veterans are just good enough and the Rockets weren't ready. They weren't ready. They're young. It's new. They weren't ready yet. Yeah, I could see that. And could I see the Warriors were exhausted? They just didn't have it. And the swarming Rockets defense just erased them. I could honestly see that too. So I can see those scenarios enough where it's like a 4 or 5 either direction where it really tilts one way that I don't quite need the over on the series. But I did look that direction. What do you think about the over?
So I've got it priced at minus 176. So I get 1 cent of value on over 5.5. So I can't get there. I think if you're willing to lay it, I think that the over probably, if we can get an alt over, is probably worth it laying heavy juice, but we don't like those bets. And you're right that I think it can go, it's one of those where it's like, we could be walking out of game 2 with it either being 1-1 or 2-0 Warriors, where it being like, the Rockets like really should have won at least one of those games, if not 2.
Yeah.
Not even like, but the experience, the narrative, like the experience and the Warriors' prestige carried them through. Just like, no, the Warriors could have played like ass. How'd they win that game? Like, that to me feels like a little bit more of what they are. It sounds a lot like, and I talked about smoke and mirrors. It sounds a lot like it's just hating on the Warriors. And like, look, I have learned that the best way to deal with the Warriors' oppression in this league is just to bet them every single time that they are good. I just have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions about their late game offense. So, like, here's one. They're 25-20 in clutch time this season with a plus 0.4 net rating or point diff. That's it. Plus 0.4. If we look at post All-Star break, and we try and get a sense for like, okay, but what about like with Jimmy? Houston's actually plus 2. That's the weird thing. Houston, terrific in clutch this year. It makes no sense. They've been terrific in the clutch and against good teams. The Rockets have been one of the best teams in the league versus elite squads this season. They've just won those games. And if you're like, well, yeah, but we don't believe that. And I'm like, I understand. I don't either. I'm just telling you it happened. The Warriors are also plus 0.7 after the trade deadline. Like, they're still not. Like, this is just not a great team in terms of late game execution. And you've seen that in certain spots where they struggle to get Curry. They're so panicked to get Curry the ball, and they don't have that kind of confidence. Like, before, it was, if you guard Curry, you're going to have to send help, and then Klay Thompson's going to be open. And now it's like, Brandon Podziemski's going to be open.
He's been pretty good for them, but it's not Klay Thompson.
Yeah. I also have there are guys on this roster that I am not sure are 16 gamers. Do you want to get to something before I go there, or can we go there?
Yeah, so one thing that I'd noticed, so we obviously hyper index on, the Warriors with Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
We've talked a lot about Steve Kerr over the years. I love Steve Kerr, the individual. I think Steve Kerr is great at managing a locker room. I don't trust Steve Kerr game to game, moment by moment on a coaching standpoint. And I have not loved his rotations and player decisions over the years. I think it has cost the Warriors greatly in some spots. It's also won them championships in some spots. So let's give credit where it's due. But when Jimmy Butler showed up, for reasons I don't understand, it's like Kerr was like, all right, well, you know all the bad lineups we've been using all season? What if we excise all those players and put lineups that make sense now? It's not just Jimmy Butler now. And some of it is the trade. Kyle Anderson is gone. Bad offense for the team. Melton is gone. He got hurt. Bad offense for the team. He's never been a good offensive player. Dennis Schroeder is gone. Off an addition by subtraction offensively. They're doing less Kuminga now. I think that's interesting in this series. Kuminga had some really good games in the season series against them. He's very athletic and he's young and got some legs. But less Kuminga is better for your offense by efficiency. Trace Jackson Davis, less of him. I think, was their defense worse because Trace Jackson Davis is your starting center? Absolutely. That's not a starting NBA center for a defense. More Moses Moody. Finally, more Moses Moody. The new Andrew Wiggins, basically. A 3-and-D wing floor spacer. It's like, hey, well, we got Butler and Draymond. We need a shooter out there. Not Kuminga. We need Moses Moody. Guess what? He's been a good player for them. More Gary Payton. That's better for your defense. Much better Brandon Podziemski. Like, to me, I agree about the non-16 gamer guys, but I actually think that maybe by accident, I don't know what took them until the Butler trade, but I think they've actually mostly optimized the roster to where the guys who seem to be playing, certainly these last couple of games, effectively playoff games, look more like the guys that can play. I'm curious which guys you're thinking of.
Hield in particular, I have concerns about.
Yeah.
And he's
I don't, as a Warriors fan, I don't need to see Buddy Hield in any meaningful minute at all.
And he's kind of important for their ability to balance the 3-point shooting, to create that kind of profile that they want to get to. And so he's still played in these last 2 games, and I'm just not sure that Hield's a 16 gamer. I'm not sure that he can operate at the kind of intensity level. Now, a quick question is, like, are you going to face that with this Rockets team that doesn't?
Yeah,
they don't know how to play a playoff game. They don't know what that gear looks like. They're about to learn, right? But that to me is like a big question mark, I think, and that ties into your future stuff, which is I'm just like, and Pods, I think, is a really interesting one. I've kind of said this a lot. There was a 2-game stretch there, and during their great winning streak, where he had 56 points in 2 games. And if Pods is going to give you 56 points in 2 games, like, that's a huge edge. They had one game where, like, Quentin Post had more than 20. Draymond had 23, a season high, and led the team in points that night. And this is what I was trying to say, is everyone's like, Steph and Jimmy! And I'm like, it's actually kind of been the other guys. Like, you got the occasional 60-pointer from Steph because he's ridiculous. And you got a couple of nights, like Jimmy was terrific in the first 3 quarters of the Grizzlies game. 2 points in the fourth quarter of that Grizzlies game. 2 points in the fourth quarter.
Playoff Jimmy.
So I think Quentin Post is another one. Like, is Quentin Post like a playoff dude? Right?
Yeah, I'm not sure Quentin Post is going to be seeing the big minutes, but we're out of options. There aren't a lot of options on the team. What do you think happens with Kuminga? Is Kuminga ever going to play again for this team?
So Draymond said it was matchup and that he would play in the series versus the Rockets. Kerr said, it's, you're not out of the rotation. It was just tonight, and quote, stay ready. Man, you are risking it by continuing to do this with him. Like,
you lose him. You lose the guy.
Yeah.
It's not just one night. He did not play a second on Sunday either. 2 must-win games. They said, we don't want you out here. Quentin Post is playing.
Well, I mean, to me, that's a Kerr thing. And I don't disagree with Steve, because I don't think much of Kuminga.
I don't either.
I don't think much of Kuminga on this team in particular. Like, one of the ways I've kind of put it is that Kuminga is a north-south player and Steph is an east-west player. And it's very hard to coordinate a motion offense with a north-south player. It's hard. You need to have, like, a lot of different angles that you use. And so I think there's actually, like, a little bit of tension there. Yeah. They struggled with this early in the year. They got to a terrific start, and then it melted down. And one of the big problems literally was it seems like you can't have a Steph team if you're making it a Kuminga team, and you can't have a Kuminga team if you're making it a Steph team. You can't have both. And so maybe you could stagger it, because, again, Kuminga was like plus 14.7 in the season series versus this Rocket squad. He was 14.8. Looney was 14.4, by the way, which I think is very notable, because a lot of that was before the Rockets discovered the 2 big lineup with Steve-O and Sengun. So I don't know if you can run 2 big versus Steph. I just feel like they're going to run stagger screens for days or elevators, and you're going to get eviscerated. But again, if there's anybody that can handle 2 bigs and still be able to stay with Steph, it's Amen Thompson. Buddy was plus 3.7 in the season series versus the Rockets. That's narrow enough that I get concerned. On Houston's side, I think what's really interesting is here's the story on the Rockets side. All of the starters were bad, except Amen.
Yeah,
and Amen
only started a couple of games.
Yeah. So, like, the question is just going to be, like, how important is Amen? Like, what does that do? Does the change of a 2 big lineup and Amen, how does that switch this up? I like a lot of these combos where it's like, I don't mind Jabari Smith guarding Draymond. That's not bad. Jabari's he's smart and physical. That's not bad. Now, the other thing I do think we have to talk about here is just, like, from where I'm at, if this series goes the way I think it does, which is it's going to get contentious, ugly, and mean very quickly, Dylan and Draymond together in a series is a bad combination.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Not just to the point of like neither of these guys are tests circa 05, but there is the capacity for this to get out of control. Draymond seems to get more out of control as he gets older. Like, there were possessions last night I was legitimately worried somebody was going to get hurt. Because he was like running into screens at full speed to set them. Like, running to set screens at full speed. And he gets away with them because the Warriors have literally never had an illegal screen called on them in their entire goddamn lives. But that's another question for another day. But that combined with Dylan and the mentality of the Rockets with Tari out there, I'm just like, and I don't know who that benefits. I think
Right, that's what I was
benefits
going to ask. I don't know either. I think the exact same thing, but I can't figure out how that should sway me as a better.
I think it benefits Houston because when Draymond starts doing this, the Warriors get away from being the better, more established professional basketball team. Like, if they're going to win, they're going to be like, hey, you guys are really talented, but you don't know what winning is like in the playoffs, and we do. And that's why we're playing Quentin Post and Buddy Hield. But, you know, like Draymond and Steph and Jimmy and do they have like another veteran you can trust here? Is there anybody else in this rotation that you're like Looney, right? Those four guys, you know, they know how to play. And Moses, I think, has learned. I like the head I like the head that Moses Moody has on his shoulders. So like, I think he's okay. He's been like, he's part of a championship team. But I do kind of think that this could go sideways, and it could go sideways quickly against the Warriors. Because the other thing is, like, it really stresses Steph out when Draymond does this stuff. Like, you can see that Steph's just like, again, man. Like, he's just, and you know, Draymond's yelling and complaining about whatever it is he's been tagged with, and Steph's got that look on his face like, I know. Yep, I know. Yep.
You know, I brought up earlier the Warriors Kings series from, what was that, maybe 2 years ago now?
Mm-hmm.
And in that series, you recall, I'm sure, Draymond Green was unplayable at points in that series.
Yeah.
Like, watching with my friend John, watching the Warriors game, we're like, yeah, like, and he's the biggest Draymond Green fan on the planet. And we're like, you might got to get him off the court, man. Like, Steve Kerr, you got to do something about this. And then he did really minimize Draymond for a while. And like, Sabonis and Şengün are relatively similar stylistic players.
Yeah.
Again, Draymond was really rough in the season series. He had 4 games. He played 4 of the 5. He had 4 rebounds or less in all but one of the games. He had 4 turnovers or more in all but one of the games. So I had that earmarked as we get to the props in a bit. Draymond rebounds unders and Draymond turnovers over. But in that series, I was like, man, you can't bench Draymond. That's your identity. You can't bench your identity. That's who the Warriors are. You have lived with him. You die with him. That's who they've always been. And Kerr actually did it. He actually made the play. He didn't bench him outright, but he really minimized Draymond in that series. I'm wondering, like, okay, if we get there, if Draymond is ineffective or Draymond loses his cool or him and Dylan are getting into it again, like, this is crazy. I can't believe the sentences I'm saying. We're sure we don't want to put in Jonathan Kuminga, who can like be athletic and rebound and do some Rocketsy stuff in a place where Draymond doesn't really have someone to defend necessarily and isn't getting rebounds anyway and is turning it over and giving free points. Like, what's left? If it's just Steph's psyche, that's on you, Steve Kerr. Let's put someone else out there that can do some positive things. I do think that's in play. I want to bring up one other series for you by comparison. You mentioned at the top, Evan Abrams had the stat. Only once ever have we had a 7 seed favored in a series. Do you remember the series?
Lakers over Suns 2021?
2021 is correct. Lakers, Suns. Lakers are favored as the 7 seed. The Suns win the series 4-2. So it's like, all right, see, so take the underdog, it's the Rockets. However, we watched that series. The Lakers went up 2-1. The Lakers were dominating 2-1. And remember, that's 2-1 with the first 2 games in Phoenix. And then Anthony Davis got hurt because, hi, have you met Anthony Davis? And then the Suns won the last 3 games in a row and went away with the series. So I don't know that I make a lot of that, except it does seem like when we finally made the 7 seed the favorite there, they were the right favorite there.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like, wasn't there an injury for the Suns early on?
There might have been. That does sound familiar also. I was like, oh, Steve Nash. Nope. We're in the wrong year for that one.
No, that's not right. Booker played, Bridges played, Ayton played, CP3 played. Nobody, nope.
Yeah, no, I
Nobody
think everyone did 6 games. Anthony Davis got hurt like in the first half of Game 4, up 2-1, and then it just completely unraveled from there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We make a lot of that, except I do think like it's a very good parallel. You get a very public team, the Lakers, the Warriors, as the 7th seed, getting the public money, so you got to make them favored. In that series, they were the right favorite until they weren't anymore because Davis got hurt. Some of the other player stuff I want to talk about here. You mentioned the season series. I got a lot out of the season series. Fred VanVleet was horrendous in the season series. He's so bad. I love my guy Fred. He averaged 8.8 points a game in 37 minutes a game. Like, he did not get played out. He just can't score. He shot 11 of 49, 22% in the season series. This is not like a one bad game. He was so bad. So I'm looking at Fred VanVleet point unders. 9 points a game, man. That's not great. Jalen Green shot under 32%, which is bad even for Jalen Green. 12.5 points a game, 3 turnovers a game. It's not great. That's your guards. That's the 2 guys that you got to go win games with. I don't love that. I mentioned Draymond, 5.4 rebounds a game, 4 or less in all but 1, 3.5 turnovers a game. So I think Draymond rebounds unders, Draymond turnovers overs. I think those are plays. And then, yeah, I'm intrigued by Amen Thompson. He only even hit 30 minutes once out of the 5 games. He played all 5. He had 14 offensive rebounds, constantly making an impact there. He had 9 shot blocks in 5 games, constantly making an impact there. He averaged 8 rebounds a game. He, in the box score, is everywhere. Like, can you be everywhere in a box score? He's everywhere in the box score. There's numbers all over the place. There are no zeros left in Amen Thompson. So, Amen Thompson blocks leader for the series is minus 120. I like that, but I'm going to wait. I don't need a minus number on a blocks leader from not a center. But maybe later. I will take Amen steals leader, plus 550. Since January 1, when Amen's been playing more, he's averaged 1.7 a game. He's on Steph. You talked about that matchup. Everyone's going to talk about it. He held Steph to 1 of 10 the last time out. We know the Warriors are going to make some dumb turnovers at times. I think Amen for steals leader is good. And then my favorite prop, you kind of alluded to this already. I agree. I think Şengün's going to have a pretty good series, at least on the glass. In 5 games, he played all 5 of them. He had 8, 10, 11, 13, and 14 rebounds. Şengün, 11.2 rebounds a game. Most rebounds in the series is minus 185. It's a little juice there. I don't really know who competes there. I think Amen maybe is your next best shot if he's just like crazy athletic everywhere, but it's not going to be Draymond. The numbers say it's not Draymond, and I don't think it's Butler. He can't get there. So I like Şengün minus 185 at BetMGM. And same book, you can bet at least 10 rebounds every game. The Joe and Jim bet, they love the every games. 13-1. It's I think most likely on these every games, you miss it on one of the games. But I think it's close enough. I think the floor is like 8-9 range. I like the 13-1 on the Şengün rebounds as well. So Amen steals plus 550 for steals leader. Şengün rebounds minus 185. And then 10 or more every game, 13-1.
Nice. Good stuff there. You mentioned Fred VanVleet. I looked this up since 2021 or since 2022-23. So the last 2 seasons, when Fred VanVleet has played against the Warriors, here's his plus minus from ranking from worst to best: minus 16, minus 13, minus 9, minus 5, minus 3, 0 to 8. So the final count there is 5 times he lost his minutes, 1 time he was even, and twice he won them. Not good.
It's not great. When you're playing 37 minutes, that's 3/4 of the game. You don't want to lose the minutes in 3/4 of the game.
I don't have a play yet on props. One that I will look for when the averages come out across all the other books. I'm probably going to go back and take a look at who drew the fouls in these matchups and try and target that player's under for Houston. So whoever it is that got the fouls, I'll look at who I think is going to match up with them. You don't want to just go with like who had the most fouls in the season series, because they'll switch matchups now in playoffs. You got to kind of game theory it out, but I'll put that in the app once I figure that out. Let's hit Celtics versus Magic, because I am delighted that you are not just like, get the series out of my face.
I was so ready to put 5 minutes of prep into this series and just be like, yeah, we're done here. Celtics -1.5, same bet I'd made on all the Celtics bets last year. We're done. I disagree with myself. I find this series, at least on paper, interesting and compelling.
What makes it interesting and compelling for you?
Well, I'll start with my 10-word outlook. I'm not totally sure the Magic are drawing dead. And what makes it interesting is that you could not, like, the Celtics are extreme versions of all the things you can be. They only want to shoot threes. That's the only thing they want to do. They shot. Do you know what percentage of all Celtics field goal attempts were 3-pointers this year? Do you know the percentage?
Was it 51%?
54%.
Yeah.
54%. Last year, I think they set an all-time record for 3-point attempts. This year, they shot 6% more threes than they shot last year. Like, it went up by, like, probably multiple standard deviations. The Orlando Magic allowed the fewest 3-point field goal attempts of any team in the NBA. How very interesting. What an interesting matchup. The Celtics are dead last at getting to the line on free throws. Guess why? Because you're shooting threes all the time. While the Magic just happen to have one fatal flaw defensively. They have the most free throws allowed in the league because they foul you all the time, but the Celtics don't draw fouls or get to the line. The Celtics don't get any of the easy stuff. I keep talking about the easy buttons. They don't get second chance points. They don't get fast break points. They don't get paint points. Orlando doesn't give you those things. So if Boston's not going to get their threes up as much, and if they're not going to take advantage of Orlando's free throws as much, I don't know. It could be interesting. And pace for the game, for the series. I didn't realize this until I saw the number. The Magic are 29th in pace. I realized that. I don't want to watch the Magic. The Celtics are 30th. The Celtics are dead last in pace. Boston's basically just like, we're not going to screw up. We're not going to turn over. We're going to defend hard. We're going to shoot a billion threes. And we're just going to keep it slow and easy. And we're going to beat the crap out of you. Guess what? This series is going to be a slog. It's going to be so slow. It's going to be lower scoring. I will certainly be looking at unders or team total unders. There's going to be less threes. And March Madness history tells me when Purdue, when Virginia, the giant good teams that are way better than the 16 seeds get upset, it's because there's less possessions, because there's slower games, there's less chances for the better team to be better. There's less threes, as less chances for the Celtics to be better. Normally you want that as the underdog. In this case, you do not. I just think from the matchup, Boston is specifically vulnerable to lower scoring, slow games, and Orlando specifically wants to win ugly, low scoring defensive games. I don't know if that's all enough because there's still the second offense to the 27th offense, and maybe that's just it, and maybe I should have stopped after 5 minutes. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued that Orlando seemed like you've done this a couple times. If you built in a lab, the player to defend Steph Curry, if you built in a lab the team to defend the Celtics and match up against their strengths, it certainly looks on paper like it might be the Magic if you could just like trick them into putting the little orange thing into the basket sometimes. That would be great. But on the other side, I'm intrigued.
What's your best bet for the series?
My best bet for the series, I honestly, I really had a hard time coming up with this. I was like, okay, can't take Celtics minus 10 trillion or whatever number we got on the series. Can't do my Celtics minus 1.5. That's priced out. I looked at Celtics minus 2.5. That's more in my range, but still pretty steep on the juice. And I'm not positive that they win this in 5 or less. So here's my bet. After 3 games, Celtics lead by 2-1, plus 165. That's my bet. That's at ESPN Bet. And I do have as a best bet Jason Tatum's series rebound leader 2-1 at Bet365. What's your best bet?
The Orlando Magic plus 2.5 plus 340 on the series spread. They're going to win 2 games. So I've been on this all season. If you listen to Buckets, the way that I have described Boston, like I've done 2 different deep dives into Boston. I did one early in the year and I did one late in the year in order to kind of double check the work. This is the way I've described them. They leaned into the bit. So the bit last year was like, hey, the Celtics take a ton of threes. They just take an amazing amount of threes. And this year, Joe Mazzulla went, what if we like went beyond that? Like, what if we went like so far that was like all we did? And if a reasonable response to this is, well, then how did Jason Tatum average 28 points a game this season? Great question. It's a great question. Some of those are pull-up threes. Some of those are because Jason Tatum is singularly great. Like, he's singularly a great weapon offensively, especially versus the kind of slips and cuts that they create with their screen action. But what you didn't see in the regular season, and I screamed about this all year, is you can't. I wrote an entire article on this. You cannot guard them the way you guard other teams. And this is the mistake everybody makes in the NBA, because nobody changes anything in the regular season. They're just like, we're going to run our base defense because we just flew in from Cleveland and we're flying to Philly tomorrow night. And, you know, this girl wants to see me and I got friends in town and coach has got a meeting, and like, there's not time. But in the playoffs, everybody builds game plans. The Orlando Magic have 2 of the bottom 5 3-point performances in made threes this season for the Boston Celtics, and 2 of the bottom 5 in attempts. This is the key here. OKC got them to miss, but allowed a ton. The Magic didn't let them take them.
Way better.
That's the key part of this. If you sort by all teams that the Celtics played this season and sort it by Celtics offensive performance in 3-point attempts, they are second. In made threes, they're first. And that's per 100 possessions. I did it by pace adjustment to make sure that it wasn't just the slow pace of the game. This is their entire thing. Orlando's thing is, you're not shooting threes on us because you're not going to run away from us. You're going to have to get out of... You're not locked in... Like, we're not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with us. And yeah, we can't score. You can't either. We'll see who gets to a few loose balls and gets a couple tip-ins to go in. And like, that's the entire strategy. And what's impressive about Orlando in particular is that despite being number 1 in opponent 3-point rate, they're also number 9 at protecting the rim. 8th, I'm sorry. They're 8th best in protecting the rim in terms of percentage of shots there. Now, frequency, so that's like percentage of makes on the attempts, they give up the 19th because they're going to give you attempts because their thing is, we're going to scramble to the outside and then everybody's going to recover in and we're going to make like these weak side blocks on you. And it's taxing and it's exhausting. And it's probably a large part of why they can't shoot, to be perfectly honest with you. But defensively, it works. And if you get Boston out of that, this has been my thing. Boston can beat you with twos. They can beat you with Jason Tatum. They can beat you with isolation. They can beat you with slips and cuts. They can do that. They're good enough. But it's not what they want to do, and it's not where they're comfortable. Your number 1 goal is to get them out of their comfort zone. You cannot beat the Boston Celtics at the Boston Celtics game. There is nobody better in the league at all, at it. Maybe in the history of the game, there's been nobody better at the math game. You can't do it. But you get them outside of that. Now, all of a sudden, they're just like a really good team. They're just a really great team that won the title last year and has all these all-stars and everything else. Like, they're still extremely talented, but that gives the Magic a shot. And the Celtics get really uncomfortable in these games. I noticed it 2 years ago that Mosley was putting together some interesting stuff there, and the season series hasn't reflected that, in part because the Magic's heads fell off in terms of their injuries. I wish Suggs was back. It would make things a lot easier if I could be like, I could trust Jalen Suggs to stay with whoever they're going to switch him on. But even then, the Magic have enough defensive personnel here to make this a miserable series. And that's enough to get this close enough. On series price, this is plus 340 is what the odds are for Celtics, or for Magic plus 2.5. I make the Magic plus 2.5 all the way down at 181. So I had to bet this. Plus 340 is my best bet.
Yeah, I am intrigued. I think that Jim Turvey is on this angle as well, and it is a natural escalator to my own bet. If I'm given the Magic 1 game, shouldn't I bet them to possibly win a second game? I'm intrigued. I will, in the next few minutes, I'm going to decide, but maybe I will add your bet also as a small escalator to mine. Yes?
I have another one to remind you, because it's been a year since we did this. What did the Celtics always do, Brandon? What do they always do, buddy?
That was screw around and blow a game.
They always screw around and blow a game unless the opponent's best player is injured. Now, if Paolo Banchero goes down in game 1, we lose, right? Like that happens. Maybe it's just last year all over again. But like, think about last year. Think about how close game 1 versus the Pacers was. Like, there's so many ways in which the Pacers steal game 1 of the conference finals. Like, if the Cavaliers have Mitchell and Allen, they're going to get at least one game, if not 2, out of that series. The Heat were never going to win. But, like, those two.
Well, so I agree with you. That's the thing. We talk about it on all the Celtics series. So I looked it up. It's not necessarily true on the Celtics first round series. They lost one of them. They lost the one first round when Jaylen Brown was hurt, Kemba Walker was hurt. Other than that one, in the last 6 years, they have 3 sweeps. They went 4-1 last year. They went 4-2 against Atlanta. The 4-2 Atlanta was anathema and terrible. But they otherwise lost 1 game out of 4 years of data. So I'm not willing to just say, well, the Celtics will screw around and blow a game this series, in the first round series. I'll come back to it. But in the first round, I'm not sure the data supports it. The data does support the 3-point thing you're talking about. In the season series, they really only had 2 meaningful games. The last one was the third and final game. Boston played nobody. But in the other 2 games, Boston shot 8 of 33 on threes and 17 of 37. Now, one of those is way better. They won that game, obviously. But the key is what you're saying. They averaged 35 attempts. They averaged for the season 48 3-point attempts. That's a massive difference. That's way less threes to get up, including Orlando shot 33 and 32 threes in those games. You're basically matching. Now it's a shooting contest. Still don't want to be in a shooting contest with Boston when I'm Orlando. Still not going to be great for me. But at least I didn't give you 15, 20 more tries at threes because now I'm in a shooting contest and a math contest. So, yeah, I do think that gives them some chances. On the other side of the ball, the Magic are top 2 in the league at free throws. Guess who fouls least in the league? The Boston Celtics. It's like another laughable, like, how is this the matchup? Everything is completely offset. I think the Magic are going to really, really struggle to score here. So in a game where you don't like the Magic, and the line's going to be high. Like, I didn't see what the game 1 line is. Yeah, I didn't look, but Boston's going to be favored by a lot in some of these games. Maybe pivot to a Magic team total under because they're just going to not score in games where it gets ugly. I think that could be a play. But a thing that gives me hope here, where it didn't in the previous series we just talked about, we talked about player hierarchy. In the previous series, I don't care how good Amen Thompson is in the series or Şengün, the Warriors have the 2 best players in the series every night. That's just what's happening. Yeah. In this series, Jason Tatum's the best player, but Paolo or Franz could be second or third or second and third in a game or first in a game. Don't act so surprised. This is less about those guys. I've never been the biggest Tatum guy anyways. This is more about Tatum as anything.
I just have never heard you say a positive thing about Paolo Banchero ever.
That's true. That's true. Paolo was really good in the playoffs last year. The metrics were there. I think he got a little bit defensive inflation because nobody could score in those series. Yeah. But like the advanced metrics really liked Paolo and Franz last year. I think they pushed it to 7 in a series that they really had no business pushing to 7. Against a team that's the 1 seed this year, by the way, against the same roster. Shouts to Jimmy Bickerstaff, but is what it is. Tatum, and then Franz, Paolo, Derek White, Porzingis, Jaylen Brown. Like, there's ways where Franz and Paolo are 2 of the top 3 or the top 2 any given night. There are not ways where Amen and Şengün are just the top 2 players in the other series. That's not happening. So if it's low scoring, and if it's ugly, and if it's close, and if you might have the best player or 2 on the court, or at least in the mix of things, again, I have to believe you might possibly have a chance at that point. So that's where I just was like, man, it's really interesting. So maybe make the case for my best bet. Here's why I chose Celtics 2-1 after 3 games. So I'm looking at all the options on the menu. Boston's sweep is plus 125. That is so disrespectful. Boston sweep is even money, basically. Like, oh my goodness. Can't get there. Orlando plus 3.5. Orlando to win a game is minus 150. To win a game. Okay, so I was like, I think Orlando wins a game. Boston screws around. Orlando wins 1 game, minus 150. Do I really need it? Do I really need to watch and pay attention 4 games to the Magic to win a minus 150 bet that at the end I'm just going to be like, why did I bet on this team? They can't score the basketball. So I had to get creative and make it worth my time. If Orlando goes down 0-3 and I lose my Celtics 2-1 bet, whatever. We're not winning the game anyways. I know Boston could screw around and lose a game 4. This team's not going to Orlando. If Orlando's down 0-3, I lost the bet. If Orlando wins one of the first 2 games in Boston, guess what else we know about the Celtics? They lose games they shouldn't, and then the next game they crush you. They're like, oh, that's right. We really shouldn't have done that. So I think if Orlando does get a game in Boston, Celtics wake up and then blow them out a game or 2, and we're back to 2-1. So 2-1 Celtics is plus 165. That's an implied 38%. To win a 1 game is an implied 60%. So I'm basically giving up a game 4, a gentleman's sweep situation, copyright you, or I'm giving up Orlando actually taking a 2-1 lead or a 3-0 lead. I'm happy to sacrifice this out. If I lose that way, so be it. I don't see it. So I got creative. I don't think I do a lot of these 3-game bets, but it's the best I can come up with all these wonky odds in the series.
Yeah, I mean, look, on the one hand, if you ask me, what is your implied odds for the Celtics to win this series? I have it at 93.4% that they're going to win.
I have it at 94, 95, I think also.
Right. So it's like they're going to win the series. And if that's as high as it is for the entire series, then any particular game is going to be ridiculously high. The problem is just like the market doesn't reflect it. The market to me at plus 340 for plus 2.5 is like, that's enough of it to be. I didn't want to do the +1 and the +2 or the for them to get win 4-1. I didn't want to do that.
Can we just rename these bets? Can we just say Magic win at least 2 games? Get out here with a plus 2.5. I have to do the math in my head every time. It's so confusing.
Oh, I like it. I like it because it's like,
it is very betting language.
I like it, but
I will say this. I mentioned at the top Celtics -1.5. The best I found is BetMGM's get a -650 on that, which is a crazy juice, but it's like half the price of anywhere else. -650 is 87% implied. I don't have a model that tells me Celtics winning in 6 or less, like as opposed to the series you just said. We said 94, 95% to win the series. What's the chance that Boston wins in 7? Can I get down to 87%? I suspect that I would be at like 89 or 90% Celtics -1.5. So there's like a slight edge on the -650. In the Magic, get the game 7, just take my money. Congratulations, Orlando Magic. Congratulations, you stupid Celtics. Take my money. I don't mind if you're like, give me the 5-minute Brandon version. Magic bad, Celtics good, -1.5, -650. I don't honestly mind that, but I think that it probably slightly favors you. It's just not the way I'm going to try to make money.
Yeah, I mean, Celtics -1.5 is -1,200.
Well, that's the thing. Again, it's -650 at BetMGM. That's the price I would consider playing. -1,200 is like 93%, and now I'm not playing it anymore. But that's the problem with the margins.
And I make it -1.5 at -448. So my numbers are just like,
yeah, you're just neither way then.
I can't get there on them. Now, again, it's just like, this is one where I've been waiting. I've kind of wanted this all year. I just wish the Magic had shown. I wish Suggs hadn't gotten hurt, and I wish they'd shown the ability to build some offensive chemistry. One I am going to be on about from a prop perspective, Gary Harris threes. Gary Harris, I think, is going to play a big part in the series. And Gary Harris is going to be able to find some 3-pointers versus a Celtics team that doesn't allow a lot of them. But I do like his angle quite a bit. So
I'm chuckling because I think that's the first time I have thought of the name Gary Harris in like 3 years of my life. So I'm excited to see Gary Harris make some threes in this series. 2 other Celtics angles that I think are worth noting. This is one that you're going to hear, I think, in the series when we come back game to game with the Celtics, because we think they're going to lose a game in the series. And I just kind of alluded to this. Since 2020 in the playoffs, when Boston is favored after losing as a favorite, they are 14-3 against the spread, covering by almost 5 points a game. The only 3 failed covers are to the Heat, the team that they can't do things against. Yeah. So when they inevitably lose the game to the Magic, bet the Celtics. The next game does not matter what the line is, go bet it. Conversely, same time frame since 2020, after the Celtics win by double digits, they're 11-19-1 against the spread, failing to cover by 3.5 points a game, including last year's title team, 3-5-1. Still not good there. So pay attention to that. Very rubber bandy team to pay attention to. I got, let me Tatum, most rebounds, plus 200. I just think is a bad number. Tatum rebounds has been a thing for ages now in the playoffs. He's averaged the last 2 playoffs, 39 games. He's averaged 10.1 rebounds a game. I don't really see who the competition is here. Paulo, 8.5-ish last year in the playoffs. I know Joe Delera is looking at Franz here. Franz averaged 5.7 rebounds a game this year. I know he likes specifically the matchup. I can get from 5.7 to 10. So Tatum, I meant to look. I believe he's been the rebounds leader in like most of their series, if not all of them in recent years. So 2-1 there. I wanted this is sicko mode. I wanted Anthony Black steals leader, and I wanted Goga Batadze blocks leader because I don't think we're gonna get a very high number in either of those. But I don't find the markets. But you can get a long price on those. Pay attention to that. And then for all the Celtics crap we just poured on, I do want to give you a positive minute on the Celtics. Futures, big picture. That's not where we're at. We're on the Celtics magic. Are we sure the Celtics are not just a juggernaut hiding in plain sight? Because they coasted all year to the 2 seed, not far behind Cleveland, this team that we're supposed to believe is like an all-time great net rating. The Celtics are just right there anyway. They got half a season from Porzingis. They lost 20 games of Horford, 20 games of Drew Holiday, 20 games of Jaylen Brown. They're still that good. They're still clearly top 3 on paper, even with all that. Last year, they were one of, I think, 9 teams ever to lose 3 games or less the entire playoffs. Without Kristaps Porzingis most of the playoffs, and with, lest we forget, not that great of a Jason Tatum playoff run. He wasn't that great. There's a reason he didn't win either of those MVP awards. And they still coasted. They're still that good. This Celtics team has made the Eastern Conference Finals 6 out of 8 seasons right now. Even the Spurs never did more than 6 in 10 seasons until they got to the 2012-2014 stretch. But for the 2 decades of Spurs greatness, they still weren't there that much. The Celtics are a rolled Jason Tatum ankle away from 3 straight finals right now. Right now, that's how good they are. If you ignore the 1 year when Kemba and Jalen were hurt and they lost in the first round, they won 1 game. Other than that year, in the last 8 years, the Celtics average 10.9 wins in the playoffs. 10.9 wins basically says you're in game 7 of the conference finals playing for the finals. You are right there. Celtics are minus 130 to win the East. I think that's bettable right now. But if you like what we've been saying about Celtics Magic and you think the Magic maybe take a series lead or maybe push it a little bit deeper, we might get a better price on Celtics. I think the Celtics are the team in the East, and they're the team that I want to bet in the East. And I think this series could give us a shot for a slight discount along the way. So that's why I wanted to fit that in there as well.
You're behind me. I bet them to win the title plus 210 a week ago because we finally got to look. It's already moved to plus 190. I got a DK and it's already plus 190. So we've lost 20 cents on it because of the matchup string. This is my thing. The Celtics are not as good as last year. They're not. There are all sorts of indicators for this. They're not as good at points in the paint allowed. Their rim defense is not as good. Their defense overall is not as good. Last year, they were an extremely well-balanced, well-rounded, hyper-efficient in every single area team that also beat you with the math game. This year, they are we beat you with the math game and Jason Tatum does some stuff and our defense is pretty good. That's it. That's all they are. That is still probably better than everybody else. That's the problem. Is like, I can be absolutely right. I am afeared that Drew Holiday is going to turn into a pumpkin. To me, this is like the entire season is leading up to Drew not being able to make it through a playoff run with the kind of shooting. He shot 62% from the corners last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was so good last year and has not been good offensively in any of the other playoff runs.
And Kristaps Porzingis, on top of the injuries, most of the on-off data this season is kind of like, he's not like this unlocks this amazing version of them. It's just like, yeah, he's like a really good player that helps them win a lot. And part of that is because they don't utilize him the same way because, again, shooty threes. And so they are way more vulnerable than they were last year. They also lost 2 games last year or whatever. 3 games last year. So, like, they could still just be better than everybody else. And I will just tell you, like, preview for the second round. Unless you believe in the Cavaliers. If you believe in the Cavaliers, we'll get there. And there's reason to believe in the Cavs. The Cavs are really good. But you just need to be betting Boston because at plus 190, it's still a really good price. But it's one of those two teams. It's gonna be one. It's gonna be one of those two teams.
Well,
I would be. Go ahead.
To me, I agree with everything you just said with a limit, which is why I'm betting just the East number. I think the Celtics are clearly better than the East competition. They might be than the West, but there are a lot of options in the West that could get there. Oklahoma City could just be way better as good as the metrics. We could get the best version of Luka and LeBron or Ant, or like I can give you 6 options in the West. I could be like, no, could be an interesting series with the Celtics. I can't do it in the East. To me, it's only the Cavs that I can even consider. I tried with the Pacers, not quite. I can't at all with the Knicks. Preview of our next season series here. We get to that. To me, like I would make Celtics more like minus 175 to 200 in the East. So you might be right about the finals, and maybe I'm not going aggressive enough. I'm just not as confident on that yet. I'm very confident in the East that I just don't believe anyone else can match them. And by the time we get to the finals, what if KP's not healthy again? What if Drew is a pumpkin? What if Jaylen Brown has already got knee problem? Like, there are enough things about the Celtics that I agree. They're not as good, and there are a lot of concerns here that I'd rather shorten my bet by 2 weeks and the variability after that. So a rare chance where I will take the more conservative play here.
Yeah, that's very rare. The conference championship odds, West is minus 120, East is plus 100. I love the East. I think the East has 2 of the 3 best teams. I don't know if the Thunder are going to make it, and I still like the Celtics in that matchup with the Thunder. And it's be like, but the Thunder swept them. Go look at how many threes they got up, man. They got up 61 threes in the game they lost. I like East plus 100 a lot. I'll probably track that in the Action Network app a little later. All right, that's going to do it for Buckets. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. Tomorrow, we're going to have best bets from all the different contributors for the first round. Series prices and game 1 props. Gilles Gallant, Joe Delera, Jim Turvey, Brandon Anderson, Michael Fiddle, Brian Fonseca. All of our guys are going to be contributing. We'll have a big mega file for you on series and game 1 for the first round. So check that out in the feed. Follow Brandon Anderson in the Action Network app at Wheaton Brando and on Twitter. We'll see you guys again next time. Thanks to David Payne, our producer, as well as Giver Gould getting this up at youtube.com/The Action Network. Buckets Live Friday night, previewing the 1-8 matchups in the NBA playoffs. We'll see you then. Until then, next time, let's get buckets.